Hello. Hello.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our second academic session of the first day of the International Conference on Northeast India, a crossroad of Asian civilizations. Today, with us, we have in this session Professor Poonam Chaudhary, ma'am, joining Director, Center for Studies in Museology from University of Jammu. She will be the chairperson for today's session. I welcome you, ma'am, from Heritage Society. I also welcome all the speakers. We have 5 speakers in this session. So without taking much time, I now request Professor Poonam Chaudhary, ma'am, to kindly begin the session.
Okay. Thank you very much. I welcome all the participants, all the speakers to this session. And Professor Neeru, you need to welcome to the session. I think there's a slight change. The speaker number 3, Dr. Sujit, is joining us in this session, but somebody else will be joining us there. And now I request Professor Neeru Mishra to start her presentation. Please.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, Professor Poonam Chaudhary. Thank you so much. I will be needing screen share.
I think the technical department of Heritage Society will
Yeah.
help in this. But I would like to request everybody that 20 minutes is the time allotted to all the speakers. So I would request everybody to, stick to the timing.
Namaskar and very good evening to all esteemed speakers, scholars, invitees and listeners. Dikhai pad raha hai? Professor Poonam, it's my slideshow is visible?
Yes.
Okay. I express my hearty gratitude to the Department of Archaeology and Cultural Affairs, Government of Assam, Guwahati, and Heritage Society, Patna, for giving me this opportunity of sharing some of my views regarding Northeast and its context with the Asian crossroad. It is indeed a great pleasure for me to be participating in this international webinar convened on the occasion of the International World Heritage Week. As you can see, I've just put the logo of UNESCO over there. I have been associated with the UNESCO, who are the proponents of the International World Heritage Week during my 10-year deputation with UNDP, as also with cultural and performing arts by virtue of my more than 30 years association with Indian Council of Cultural Relations. My association with particularly in Northeast and the cultural affairs has been very deep rooted. It is because of this ongoing World Heritage Week that I have chosen the topic of my talk today on situating Bhakti traditions of Manipur in Asian context. As you would all be aware, the only intangible world cultural heritage from Northeast inscribed by UNESCO is from Manipur. There are many World Heritage sites in Northeast area, but for intangible cultural heritage, Manipur has the credit. The list is made up of those intangible heritage elements that help demonstrate diversity of cultural heritage and raise awareness about its importance. The list was established in 2008 when Convention for Safeguarding of the Intangible Cultural Heritage came into effect. UNESCO maintains 3 lists with it under its Intangible Cultural Heritage banner. The list of intangible cultural heritage in need of urgent safeguarding. Second, the list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity, and the register of good safeguarding practices. Some of the criteria for inclusion in the representative list are: if the inscription of the element will ensure visibility and awareness of it, and if the element has been nominated after having the widest possible participation of the community, group, or individuals concerned, and with their free, prior, and informed consent. From India, the intangible cultural heritages added into this list are, as on the screen, tradition of Vedic chanting, Ram Leela, the traditional performance of the Ramayana, Kutiyattam, Sanskrit theatre, Ramman, religious festival and ritual theatre of Garhwal Himalayas, Mudiyettu, ritual theatre and dance drama of Kerala, Kalbelia, folk songs and dances of Rajasthan, Chau dance, Buddhist chanting of Ladakh, Sankirtan, ritual singing, drumming and dancing of Manipur, on which I will be concentrated later on. Traditional brass and copper craft of utensils making among the Thareras of Jandelia, Guru, Punjab, Yoga, Nowroz, Kumbh Mela, which has been recently added, as we all are aware. To qualify as World Heritage, UNESCO has prescribed two stringent criteria: authenticity and antiquity. The tradition should be old enough, more than 100 years, and that it should be untempered. Sankirtan qualified on both the counts before UNESCO screening committee held at Baku and was unanimously recommended for enlistment in 2013 to this prestigious list. Manipur is one of the 8 states of Northeast India. Culturally and ecologically, a very rich and diversified state. Its long borders touch with Myanmar and Moreh district, which is about 80 kilometers from the capital town of Imphal, as we can see here, is the gateway to Myanmar and a major trading center from early times. It has been rightly observed, and I quote, "Religion found an ally in commerce to carry the Indian way of life outside India," which is quite visible when we see the culture which flourished in Southeast Asia and other neighboring countries. The dynamics of cultural inter-exchange has been significant between East and Northeast India and Southeast Asia. Northeast has been at the crossroads of this cultural inter-exchange. The famous Vishnu temple at Bishnupur is the beginning of the Vaishnav traditions in Manipur. The 15th century, precisely 1470 AD, is of the time of King Kyamba, who along with Chwapa Khe Khomba, the king of Pong, conquered Kyang, a Shan kingdom in the Kalbeo Valley of present Myanmar. As a mark to the celebration of this victory, an idol of Lord Vishnu, small idol, very small idol, was given by the Pong king to King Khamba. King Khamba started worshipping the idol at Longpang, which then came to be known as home of Lord Vishnu or Bishnupur, which is a district, and it is on the way from when we travel from Imphal to Loktak Lake. It's a religious place and many people go there, and it has many archaeological sites. Subsequently, he built a Vishnu temple of brick at Bishnupur. It is an ASI protected historical monument. Subsequently, on these foundations of Vaishnavism, the Krishna Bhakti flowed into Manipur. Sankirtan tradition of Manipur represent an era of cultural evolution. The origins can be traced when Vaishnav and Krishna Bhakti streams started flowing in the region with Mahaprabhu Chaitanya, whose philosophy of emotional bondage with Krishna, the Achintya Bheda Bhed, enveloped a large part of the peninsula in a very short time. This traveled from present West Bengal and went up to Tripura, Assam, and other neighboring states, and which is even now which are influenced by Sankirtan. Sankirtan as a performing art form which involves ritual singing, drumming, and dancing, three things together, performed in the temples and domestic spaces in Manipur state in India. I would like to emphasize here that this is not only the performance, whether it's drumming, singing, or performing, dancing, it has a very deep rooted thread of devotion, which is along with the emotion which flows in the crowd. So there is a lot of positive energy around. Through the performances which exhibit unparalleled religious devotion and energy, the performers narrate the many stories of Krishna life, often moving the spectators to tears. It is practiced primarily by the Vaishnav community in Manipur and by the Vaishnav Manipuri population settled in neighboring states of Tripura and Assam. There are three segments of Sankirtan: ritual singing, drumming, and dancing. It can be performed both in temples and in domestic spaces, mainly a song interlaced musical performance of Krishna's story and deeds. It is also widespread among the Manipuri population around the place. The emotional fervor is so high, and it can be seen and it is felt that Sankirtan performance is the visible manifestation of God personified there. The performance involves forming of a circle in the mandap of the temple with drummers around playing in a very deft acrobatic style. It's very, very interesting. Three forms which are usually played in the temple are Nattupala, Aribapala, Manohar Saipala. Outside the temple, Sankirtan is performed in the Holy Pal format, as we can see during the Holi festival, the color festival, the spring festival. In the domestic format, Sankirtan is performed on the special occasions of marriage, ear piercing, sacred thread ceremony, etc., and even for the departed souls. It was during the evolution of the Sankirtan traditions of Krishna Bhakti in Manipur that the Mahabharata and related Krishna Bhakti narratives were being also engraved mainly in the Priyakhan, Angkor Wat, Taprom, and Bantesri temples of Siem Reap in Cambodia, and Wat Mahathat temple of Luang Prabang, Laos. These parallels in time and space need further explorations to establish definite linkages, but there is no doubt that it formed a continuum. Evidences of Mahabharata narratives in Indonesia are found even from the 1st century AD and would have continued in the region parallel to the Ramayana traditions as a part of the Vaishnav Bhakti traditions. Here are two temples, one is from Malaysia and the other from Vietnam, which are the Sanatan Dharma temples, which as the Hinduism called there. The other related art form of Manipur is Ras Leela, an aspect of Krishna Bhakti traditions. Again, it is a very popular dance form even today. You can see two performances going on there. Very delicate bhangima, as we would say, the actions, the dance form, and this is also one of the classical form of dance by Sangeet Natak Academy. The parallels of Sankirtan and Ras Leela are found in a major part of Southeast Asia. I wanted to show you a slide with comparison. On the left side is the Ras Leela. On the right side, top above, is a performance from Thailand of the Ramakya or the Ramayana as they perform. On the left side is from Luang Prabang, the Laos, which has again some Sanatan temples, and center one is again from Thailand, and the right side is from Vietnam. The rich exchange of civilizational traditions, particularly in the field of art and architecture, philosophy and religion, as also the interactive cultural traditions between India and East Asia, are well documented. We have the indications from the 3rd century BCE onwards, when Ashok sent emissaries to Southeast Asia. Many remains of temples and complexes in Cambodia Thailand, Myanmar, Vietnam, and Indonesia are intact today, which depict the devotional and esoteric traditions of Indian culture. Because of the paucity of time, I'm not able to show those slides, but I thought that this comparison of performances and the activities and the narratives involved in the dance form from Bali, from Laos, and from Thailand are very important. Uh, Many of these architectural marvels surpass even the Indian temple traditions of the contemporary period. Traces of Indian cultural elements are found in almost all the ASEAN countries, including Singapore, Malaysia, Laos, Brunei, Philippines, and Timor-Leste on the Indian Ocean Rim. Without going much into these details, which have been well documented in terms of Ramayana and Mahabharata traditions and Buddhist influences, I would like to touch upon the area of Bhakti or devotional traditions of Northeast and mainly Manipur, as they would have contributed tremendously to the continuity of the cultural interactions. These were not merely physical performances, but were also associated deeply with the devotional human psyche. As we all know, Burma or Myanmar during the British period was freely accessible for trade and for travels to and fro the rest of India. In fact, the famous Bollywood song we may all of us would be remembering of the beloved having gone to Yangon is an ample evidence of the fact मेरे पिया गए हैं रंगून वहां से भेजा है टेलीफोन. Even today, no visa is required for the Indian citizens to go up to 15 kilometers in the territory of Myanmar from More and vice versa. Only a visitor's permit is enough. 15 kilometers from the international boundary is a distance deep enough to be in regular touch with the trading community of the two countries. We all are aware that modern day Vipassana practices traveled from Myanmar to India in 1969 through Satyanarayan Goenkaji, inspired by his mentor Sayaji Uba Keen, and even today, both the countries have common traditions of practice. It's not that the traditions and the cultural inter-exchange has gone only from Northeast, but from other side also, we have brought in many. Thus, the interactions of devotional and other cultural practices from Northeast to Myanmar and beyond have deep rooted traditions. Folklore singers and artists played a very important role in popularizing and modifying Indian literary works in Southeast Asia, and it was the most popular and effective way of propagating Indian culture. Through retelling of the stories from generations to generation, the great epics of Ramayana and Mahabharata could be edited and retold to attract bigger and bigger audiences. Almost 500 meter, half a kilometer wall is in the bas relief and is visible with a very good polish and very good work in Angkor Wat temple. So one wall is of Ramayana and one side is Mahabharata. So likewise, many such stories in the narrative form for the local populace have taken from here. The artists who popularized these were called Dalangs and contributed to the process of adaptation of these epic works originating outside their country by adding or changing them to make them more contextual and localized. This was the beginning of the formation of new texts like Seri Ramayana, Rama, Malaysian adaptation of Ramayana, Ramakya, Ramayana in Khmer, in Cambodia. These are regarded as some of the highest literary works of Southeast Asia. Similarly, sculptors and artists copied and combined original Indian motifs with local artistic motifs to arrive at something distinctly Southeast Asian and produce stylized masterpieces of their own. Modeled after Gupta period icons, the Cambodian Khmer sculpture of 8th to 13th centuries are very different in appearance and form, very delicate. Yet they are beautiful creations representing stylized figures of gods, goddesses, apsaras, demons with Southeast Asian features and the scenes of Mahabharata and Ramayana. Sanskrit scripts are the first form of writing known to have reached Southeast Asia. Similar alphabets were adopted for local languages as well. The alphabets used today for Burmese, Thai, Laotian, and Cambodian derive originally from Indian prototype. A large number of ancient inscriptions which have been discovered are in Sanskrit. It was pointed out in the inaugural session today by the first keynote speaker and Honorable Chief Secretary, Mr. Barua, that there are more than 50,000 Manipuris living in Myanmar even today who provide the cultural continuity with the early times. The societies of today are the remains of past cultural systems. These past cultural systems can be better understood by an ethnographic study that would help us in understanding what these cultural systems were all about in order to help us interpret the past dynamics. Garo communities were carefully analyzed, which revealed that they share the same linguistic affiliations of the Boro group of the Tibeto-Burman families spread all over Assam. It was also uncovered that 90% of their material cultures were made up of objects made from organic material and clay. Northeast India is a diverse contact bowl having been influenced by South Asia, Southeast Asia, and East Asian countries. This region enjoys a strategic location being at the intersection of South Asia and Southeast Asia. Therefore, Northeast India can act as a land bridge between South and Southeast Asia. In addition, linking the Northeast with Southeast Asia via sea routes like that of ancient times can boost its economic growth and prosperity because of its immense potential and strategic location. To end up my presentation, I would say Northeast India deserves greater attention in the foreign policy decisions of India. Geographically, too, the eastern part of the country would gain significantly from the location that Northeast enjoys due to prehistoric and proto-historic movements of people into this region from mainland India, South China, Southeast Asia. Dr. Dilip Kumar Medi referred to this territory as a Great Indian Corridor. With this, I thank all the organizers and listening and to the Madam Chairperson. Namaskar. Thank you. Om Swasti Astu.
Thank you, Professor Neeru. Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Neeru, for giving such a wonderful presentation and taking us, to the whole history of Bhakti, Bhakti traditions of Manipur and relating it to Bali, Laos, Southeast Asia. It's a wonderful presentation, and I think everybody must have gained a lot from your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now I request Dr. Paromita Das to present her paper. She's a professor in the Department of History, Guwahati, University of Assam, and she will be speaking on Vidyadharas in the Art of Assam. Dr. Paromita, please.
Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes.
Hello,
Yes,
can you
I
hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so I want permission to share the screen.
Yeah, the technical team will be helping you.
Okay.
To share the screen, there is a share screen option in the bottom.
Yeah. Can you see my screen
Yes,
now?
we can. Yes.
Hello. Okay. First, I'm going to read my paper, and after that, I'm going to the slideshow. Okay. Vidyadharas in the Art of Assam. Vidyadharas are aerial deities that popularly inhabit the landscape of mythology in ancient Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain texts of India. In art, we find them in different regions of India as well as in Assam. From the 4th century onwards, when Kamarupa or ancient Assam in the Brahmaputra Valley came under the political tutelage of the imperial Guptas of North India, the art idioms of the Ganga Valley also migrated to the region. This finds reflection in its art as evidenced by the Daw stone gateway that portrays the river goddess Ganga and Jamuna or Yamuna in a similar attitude as found in Nashna Kuthara and other places. Besides Brahmanical deities like Vishnu and Surya, folk deities like the Salabhanjika, the semi-divine beings like Apsaras, Gandharvas, and Vidyadharas are also found in the art of Assam. According to the Encyclopedic Dictionary of Indian Culture, Vidyadharas are supernatural beings that live in the Himalayan regions as the attendants of Shiva. They have knowledge of the science of spells and possess magic power. They are essentially aerial deities or spirits and fall in the category of Upadevata or demigods. There are numerous references to Vidyadharas in the epics and Puranas, and they form a common leitmotif in the sculptures of the early medieval period. We find them on the upper portions of the stela or stele in stone icons. They are also depicted on terracotta plaques and upon the base of temple plinths, often holding lotus buds. And in early, like in India, like in Badami and all, we find them rock cut, uh, that is Vidyadharas. Then in Ellora we find, then in the Gupta period also from Mathura, Varanasi, other places, then in Bangladesh, etc. we find these Vidyadharas. The Assam State Museum, so basically it is proposed to discuss the depiction of the Vidyadharas in the art of Assam. And the Assam State Museum in Guwahati houses numerous images of Vidyadharas belonging to the period 10th to 12th centuries. One of the earliest representations of a Vidyadhara upon a stone slab measures, it's a very small sculpture that is 20 centimeters by 43. Its provenance is unknown. According to R.D. Chaudhary, the former director of the museum and the Director General of National Museum, this image can be assigned to the 9th, 10th century on stylistic grounds. No details are, however, available about this sculpture. And we only find it referred in the museum catalog.
For a moment. Dr. Prof, are you moving your
Yes.
slides because it is stuck? Vidyadharas in that?
No, I'm not moving. First, I will read the paper and then I will show the slides.
Sorry. Please continue.
Okay. So then to the same and because of the pandemic, like I could not personally visit some of the things. Some photos I had earlier. So this was a problem, like I could not personally visit the museum. So I had to depend upon the catalog. But others, I had done some field work. I have some images which I will show. Now to the same period belongs the miniature flying image that was unearthed of the Vidyadhara that was unearthed in the museum compound itself, and which is situated on the southern bank of the Digholipukhur in Guwahati. And this area actually, it is adjacent to the Ambari excavation area. So wherever actually in this region of Guwahati you dig, you find earlier remains. Now this is also a small image measuring 35 centimeters by 45. Then another image is found there, which is 23 by 9, etc., of unknown provenance assigned to the 10th century in the museum catalog. Then a row of 5 Vidyadhara images, that is in a row, was recovered from the vicinity of the Meghdut Cinema Hall in Guwahati. And the total measures 59 centimeters by 52. Another image of a single Vidyadhara was recovered from the Rajadwar area of North Guwahati. And this is also a small image and is similar to the one like that is with mustache and all. These images have mustaches and are not in the typical flying stance encountered upon the stele of sculptures. We also find 2 flying Vidyadharas of unknown provenance on the upper portion of a broken stele. Now to a slightly later period belongs another image upon a granite stone block measuring 100 centimeters into 80 centimeters with a pointed stela. So this figure is depicted with an oval. Oh, it appears to have got stuck. Because this photo I had, so sorry, because this photo I had taken earlier, I wanted to show. Oh. Somehow it's not clicking.
Can the technical team help her?
It's written the application is not responding. Program may respond again if you wait. I'll continue reading the paper, then I will try to show the slides. Okay, so this we find it is depicted within a beautiful oval frame of lotus petals. It is upon a granite stone block, and the top part of the stone block, but it has a very unfinished look. It is like pointed, and it appears to be hovering in the air, the typical image, but it is quite big, and like 100 centimeters into 18 centimeters, and the body is turned slightly to the left, though the head faces front. It holds a garland or mala in both hands. Figure is adorned with an elaborate mukuta, kanthahara, and is wearing a dhoti or lower garment. Now, in the year 1990, during the construction of an indoor stadium at Cotton College in Guwahati, workers discovered the remains of an earlier structure. The Directorate of Archaeology conducted excavations down to the natural soil, revealing remains that dated from the 7th to the 19th century. The finds at the Cotton College campus of Gauhati yielded a rich treasure trove of terracotta artifacts like plaques, pottery, miniature images of Ganesha, Apsara, etc. More than a dozen terracotta plaques were discovered, some in semi-mutilated condition. Of these, some are at present housed in the museum of the Department of Anthropology of, now it is a university, at that time it was Cotton College, and the others are in the reserve collection of the Assam State Museum. These plaques were discovered below the floor of a bow-shaped courtyard constructed of broken brick bats, and it lay adjacent to the base of a massive stone temple whose remains have also been found. Now, two of the terracotta plaques depict an image of a Vidyadhara. The two Vidyadhara figures are similar except that the head of one figure is missing. They are in the typical aerial posture with a lower garment and an upper garment thrown over the shoulder. The head has a kirta mukuta and broken pushpa kundalas adorn the ears. Then we find kanthahara, armlets, anklets, etc. The right hand holds a kharga and the left a padma. The headless Vidyadhara measures 38 centimeters by 33, while the other one, whose lower half is missing, is 34 by 33. Both these plaques have an upper and lower band of lotus petal motif. Plaques with similar lotus motifs have also been recovered from other areas of Guwahati as well as from Bhaitbari in the Garo foothills in Meghalaya, adjacent to the plains of Assam, where Buddhist stupa and other remains were excavated. At Deopahar in Numaligarh, Golaghat district, we find the lone example of Vidyadhara sculptures in situ. Here was excavated an 11th century temple Adhisthana that consists of an oval sanctum preceded by a rectangular mandapa. Now, among the ruins of the temple is a ceiling slab depicting a Vidyadhara within a Vishwapadma. It holds a scarf and a garland in both hands. Other stone blocks of the site also depict Vidyadharas in similar attitude. Now, the temple plinth, it is oval in shape, which I will try to show you. It is divided into 6 layers or tiers, and the bottom 3 tiers have lotus petal motifs and geometrical designs. Above them, we find a row of Vidyadharas holding lotus buds in their palms. And above them are a row of Kirtimukh, and the topmost tier has a row of elephants. And in Angkor Wat also, we find some similar things like Kirtimukh and then also elephants. Like not the Gajathara motif which we find at the bottom, but this is on top. So here it is for the first time that we find Vidyadharas associated with the Kirtimukh, and the sculptures of Deopahar have affinity with that of Southeast Asia, especially Cambodia and Java, where the Kirtimukh in association with Makara is popularly known as Kalamakara motif. The facial features of the Deoparvat Vidyadharas also resemble certain sculptures of Apsaras in Angkor Wat. Now, in the Assam State Museum, in the Ambari Gallery are housed numerous icons of Vishnu, Surya, as well as one of Chandanarika and Nataraja, etc. These sculptures made of amphibolite, etc., were recovered from the Ambari excavation site situated in the heart of Guwahati city. They belong to the 14th century and exhibit a marked difference from the sculptures of the Eastern Indian style of medieval art, which had flourished in the Pala period in Bengal as well as Assam. However, one leitmotif of the Pala sculptures was the pointed steel, wherein there was carved a Kutimukh at the apex, flanked by two flying Vidyadharas. In these sculptures from Ambari also, not in all, but in some of them, we find this. That is the Vidyadharas. Here, however, are mere sculptural motifs and depicted in the typical aerial pose. Now, what you find is very few sculptures of Vidyadharas are actually present in Assam. Now, these images of Vidyadharas which are noticed belong to the 9th century onwards, and after the 14th century, we do not find a representation in art. From the 13th century onwards, Assam witnessed repeated invasions from the west from the Turco-Afghans that had established a rule over northern India. The Turco-Afghans were followed by the Mughals. Although the rulers of Assam were able to withstand their onslaught, the period of constant conflict resulted in a loss of patronage of the arts. This resulted in a break in the art traditions. Meanwhile, the Tayahums also entered the Brahmaputra Valley from the east and gradually established a sway over the land. They were able to successfully repel the Mughals. When peace ultimately returned in the land towards the close of the 17th century, new art idioms found favor, and the depiction of folk deities and demigods like the Vidyadharas were no more seen in art. So after that, actually, we do not find, say, Salabhanjika, Vidyadharas, or Kutimukh. So basically, we find trefoil, multiple trefoil designs, mihrabs, etc. So the Vidyadharas were generally associated with Shiva and Shaivite shrines, and the ancient and early medieval popularity of Shaivism made way for a new religion, namely Neo-Vaishnavism. Although the Koch and Ahom rulers in the late medieval period repaired and built the earlier temples dedicated to Shiva and also Vishnu and others, the old guilds had disappeared. The new artists, especially those from Bengal and Koch Bihar, were influenced by Islam, and the space occupied by the Kutimukh and Vidyadhara were replaced by multifoil arches and mihrab motifs, and also geometrical and other floral motifs. And new motifs like the winged dragon, like stylized lion, gained popularity. That is the stylized dragon-like lion of the Ahoms. And the Vidyadhara slowly disappeared from the art of Assam. So that is my presentation. I'll now try to again attempt to show. It's just going around in circles. It's not.
So, reshare your presentation. I mean, maybe it's been open for so long, hence it is not opening.
But like the presentation is on full screen and I'm doing, do you want to end the process? So I'm ending it, but it's not even escalating.
Can that
because I thought I'll start it, or maybe I'll stop sharing and try again. Okay, I'm stop sharing. It's just going around in circles like that.
Somebody from the Heritage Society, can you help, please?
Ma'am, it's possibly happening because the file PPT file may be very heavy. You may consider changing it into PDF format and then you can share the screen. Possibly it may work.
No, what is happening is like I had opened that. No, the title slide is open. Okay, so I'm trying to. I press escalate to go out from it. But Microsoft Windows, one small thing comes up and said the application is not responding. The program may respond again if you wait. So I have waited, but it's not ending. Then do you want to end this process? So I pressed end process, but nothing is happening.
I think it's because of Microsoft PPT is not responding. The whole application is not responding. It happens sometime when the file size is very heavy. So you can close the PowerPoint presentation and then you can change the PowerPoint into PDF format and then you can consider sharing the screen. I hope it.
No, actually, actually, what is happening is I had put full screen. Okay, I had put full screen, and then now I'm not able to go out from full screen. From your end, can you stop the sharing? Then maybe
It's not possible from our end, ma'am, because we are not doing the screen
Okay.
sharing.
Okay. Maybe if I restart the computer, just give me 2 minutes.
Okay.
I'll restart.
You can use the escape button and then reuse it. Escape button. Professor Das, you can use the escape button.
Her presentation has been very, very interesting, and it would be lovely if we could see the, the images also of what he has described about Vidyadharas. So, Dr. Das, are you there? Dr. Das?
Dr. Das is currently not connected with us. Possibly, she might be joining us.
Okay. We can wait for a few minutes and see if she's able to connect.
I'm trying to connect with her. Possibly, we can wait for 1 minute, maybe.
Yeah. Should we move on to the next presentation? Hello.
Maybe, ma'am, we can move to our next presentation. Maybe possibly see the join later.
Yeah, let's move to the next presentation. Since Dr. Sujit Nayan is not joining, so could you please share the name of the speaker?
Our third presenter is P.S. Rakhoveio, Mr. P.S. Rakhoveio. He is currently PhD research scholar at Gauhati University.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Hello. First of all, I would like to thank the Cultural Affairs Department, Government of Assam, Gauhati, and Archaeological Exploration and Excavation Department, Heritage Society for giving this platform, and also I could like able to participate in this platform. Thank you so much. Today, I would like to do a presentation on traditional festival, a study of Pomai Naga tribe in Snapti district of Manipur. I won't be doing a PowerPoint presentation because like I have a little issue connecting my internet in my laptop, so I'll be just presenting like this as it is. I'm audible. Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you. Please continue.
Oh yeah. Traditional festival is one significant part of cultural motif of several communities in different parts of the world. Festivals are collective phenomenon and serve purpose rooted in group life, and it is one of the social activities of human beings since time immemorial. Through traditional festival and social ceremony, a community can firm out one identities and will show the different aspect of their life, such as their philosophy, their existence, emotion, themes, values, and ethics. It is interesting to note that Pomai Naga community distinctively inhabiting in the hills of Manipur state in Northeast India, possessing unique and distinctive traditional festival. Sorry, all kind of traditional festival of the Pomai Naga involve religious rites and ritual and agricultural based. The traditional religious rites and ritual practices are hardly performed, but few who are still pagans following the animistic worship perform the traditional religious practices. I will give a brief introduction about the Pomai Naga tribe. Pomai Naga tribe is a community predominantly inhabited in Snapti district of Manipur, though there are some villages fall in Nagaland state under Pak district. Pomai Naga tribe are spread over around 77 villages and 4 villages in Nagaland, and where it is broadly divided into 3 blocks: Pomata block, Lopona block, and Chilabat block. And people are known for their bravery and fidelity and wisdom. According to the latest census report, 2011 census, their population of Puma is about 187,180 in Manipur and 10,000 in Pak district of Nagaland. About the origin, oral oral historical account reveal that the first Pumai settler in Michael at was Kapo Duko and Supu Boyu, the settler at Saranama village. The Lapona group settled down at Kwaide under the chieftain of Naupu Rakhoveio. The Papuji group, known as Bromai, migrated from Michael and settled at Profe, was west of Kuchi Laila Range for the first short period and resettled at Profe, now currently known as Kodom. This is the oral history, the migratory history of Pumai that was migrated from Michael. Michael is like the common origin of the Naga belief to the common origin place of almost all the Nagas, especially the Tinimi Naga. The objective of the study is to provide the general conscious awareness of common origin of the cultural or physical resemblance or the simple affinity of our kind through the practices of traditional festival and social ceremonies. This paper is an attempt to study the traditional socio-cultural values of predominantly posited in the modern travel ethic belt of the rich cultural traditions, mainly in traditional festivals. Data is collected mostly from primary sources through unstructured interview and scheduled and participant observation as well as secondary sources. Study follow the historical perspective based on oral tradition. Coming to the festival. Festival is known as no or ni, and NII is some circle called NII, some circle called NI. It is known as festival. Pomai land is a land of festival. Pomai celebrated its own distinctive seasonal festival with a pageantry of color and feast of music. This put up the cultural markers of her rich cultural tribal identities. Pomai no, or festival essentially consists of invocation and thanksgiving to the deities. The festival or Na are celebrated according to the feast day of the Pomai lunar calendar month. It marks the beginning or the end of the Sichuan plantation seed and seasonal and propitiations of the local deities. Classification. Speaking of festival or no, can be broadly categorized into two. That is like a yearly festival and occasional festival with lunar calendar month. The yearly festival or no is celebrated on a fixed day every year. It has three yearly incense no or festival of Pomai, such as they are Lao No, Theo No, and Do No. Well, the occasional festivals such as Chhomu or Feast of Merit or Pao No, the plantation feast. Maiso No, that is convening feast. Tai Thu No, that is seed showing feast. Rau No, Lokai No, Dou No, So No, Jizu No, Pu No, Niu No, etc. are celebrated according to the convenience of the people. And I want to elaborate some of the festivals which are celebrated every year, like by the society, and which are still prevailing till today. Tuna is a New Year festival or Sichuan festival, which is celebrated as New Year festival in associating with Sichuan by performing several rites and rituals done by Mavio. Is known as a palace chief, to protect the territory and to cultivate the seed bountifully. Several competition between the clan and social practices during this day of the festival. On this Tuno, I want to elaborate a little bit. We usually celebrate this Tuno according to the choice of the village, or like according to the convenience. It will fall in the month of Tu, means like Tuno, in the month of Tuno. That is like the month of January. It will fall in the beginning of January, like 4, 5, and 6. So like we consider on 4th is known as our Tuno Day. So on that very day, in early morning, the village elders, they'll wait till midnight, and they will do some kind of ritual to protect the land and territory. They'll shout, and they'll perform war cries in the middle of the village to protect the territory, so that like other people may not attack us in the whole year. That is the ritual performed during on this day. And another interesting is Pau Pono Sitine. This is Pono Sitine. The first rice plantation was done on this day. Several rites and ritual is done by the head of the family. On this day, like different villagers came by to the neighboring village, and help in planting the seedlings of the paddy. So like we celebrate for 2 days. One day is like a preparation day, and another day is like for planting the saplings. So on this day, all the villager will begin plantation by that day itself. No one is allowed to plant their paddy before that day. On the fixed day, it will fall in the month of no no in the month of May. Some will fall in the first week of May. Some will be in the last week of May, depend on the village on the weather. And like on this day, indigenous traditional wrestling took place. Like there are some several uh, competition. Naga wrestling took place in the evening, and like there will be a kind of a prize, or they will announce on that very day. That is like a sitting day, the main day. So the youth visiting coming from different villages will help the villagers roaming and like circulating the field, and like they will help in plant planting the paddies. And the next is Launa. It is a post-plantation festival. Launa is a sacred festival of the Pomai tribe. It is celebrated after the completion of paddy plantation in the month of Lao. In the month of Lao is July. It falls under July. Some will celebrate their Launa festival. If they could not finish their plantation, they will celebrate the festival in the month of August. Probably most of the villages finish their plantation in the month of Lao. That is July. So on this, Launa is most popular and significant festival for menfolk, young boys and girls of Pumai. It is a festival of man's purification. In the olden days, this festival continues for around 15 days. Rites and rituals such as Lotu and naming ceremony and Lizi, man's self-purification. Such kind of rites and ritual were done. Like a guy, especially a boy who is above 3 years old to 10 years, they will be doing this rites and ritual, and like a naming ceremony will be doing on this very day. They will men's purification, mean they will go to the nearby stream and they will purify themselves. But due to the immerse of Christianity, now we doesn't practice this one. So we just have the knowledge orally passed down from our forefathers till today. We could not see those kind of practices, but like a few people, those who are practicing those animistic religions or those pagans, they still do this kind of performance. And on this day, youth, especially youth, they visit from bachelor's dormitory to uh, ladies for women's dormitory. So like they exchange the meat, they exchange the wine, rice beer, and they celebrate. This is a post plantation festival because like they have finished their work, plantation, like hard flowing or everything they have done. So like they are having a good time on this day. They're resting. Donmo. The next one is Donmo. Donmo is a Muchuri festival. This festival is celebrated in the month of Crow. And that Crow means December. Donmo literally means a festival of lamentation. In other words, Krono means Muchuri feast. According to the traditional belief, Pumai Naga, the soul of deceased person, were not left in the village until their relative performed the ritual of sacrificial offering to them. This is uh, this festival was not performed or like was not done by all the families. This festival or like this Michuri feast festival was only done by a family whose family members or like a relative passed away this year. So like until this time, until December, their soul is believed to be with them in that very house, in their house. And like after this, after this very ritual, after this sacrifice on this day, the deceased, the spirit, the soul will leave after several sacrifices. They'll kill a dog, a chicken, the dog, a cock, and even a cat. They'll kill and they'll sacrifice to the deceased. And on the last day of this festival, it will be followed by Seihu. That is like hunting of ritual ceremony birds called Si. That is a typical bird and of the feast. The feast has been normally celebrated in the month of December. Yeah, like after performing such kind of rite and ritual, all the male members will go and hunt that particular bird, which is called say in our typical in our language. It's called sea, and like that bird is a ceremony bird. So like, they will go and hunt that one, and they will after hunting they will not hunt that bird with any kind of equipment. They will just skate with a bare hand. All the male member they will circle the bird. They'll from the early morning they'll go and search that bird and they will circle that bird and they will gauge by the bare hand. It symbolizes that we are the hunters. We are the hunters. So we still practice that one. And like, after catching that bird, the male members will come to village with a war cry and like uh, and will place in the king's in the village chief house the head of that
M-
bird.
May I request you to just wind up? It's the time is over, 20 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Coming down to last one only.
The conclusion. Yeah, please.
Taken as a whole, traditional festival facilitates social structure and creates a new firm and process. Consequently, it threatens the identity of the society. The traditional festival of the Puma essentially consists of invocation and thanksgiving to the deities and always associated with agriculture. Yearly festivals are always occasioned with agriculture. It is because agriculture is the main source of livelihood. Ritual Rites and rituals are observed in the best manner in order to save the whole year, also to harvest fruitfully. Indeed, the most important of the tribal communities and ethnic communities to think and rethink and to do the research preserving the vanishing of our traditional rich socio-cultural ethos, identities like traditional festivals, social ceremonies, rites and rituals, jainas, etc. Thus, it would bridge the old traditions to the new modern traditions. So like I want to conclude in that way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for such an interesting presentation. The festivals. I mean, it was. I would have loved to listen to more, but we have a time constraint. And see, because in Jammu and Kashmir also we have lots of festivals which are celebrated uh, for agriculture only. So it's really very nice
It'll
to
be
hear
very
about
much
the festivals
related.
of your
Yeah.
part of the country. So the next presentation is a joint presentation of Dr. Sweta Mahanta and Dr. Chhomu. They are going to
Yes.
speak on the Monpas of Arunachal Pradesh, exploring the South Asian connection. And Dr. Sweta Mahanta is an assistant professor in Darrang College, Tezpur, and Dr. Chhomu is also an assistant professor in Government College, Doimukh, in Arunachal Pradesh. Please. Now I request both of you to present your paper.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. The paper that I'm going to present is titled The Mompas of Arunachal Pradesh, Exploring the South Asian Connection. We find that among the numerous tribes inhabiting the Northeast India, which is almost 160 scheduled tribes, according to the 2001 census of India. We find that the Mompa tribe, they reside in the mountainous region of Arunachal Pradesh, and they are one amongst the 26 major tribes found in Arunachal Pradesh, mostly residing in the districts of Tawang and West Kameng. While Tawang is inhabited mostly by the Mompas, constituting almost 98% of the population, in West Kameng, the Mompa population stands at 78%, with the other major tribes residing there being the Mijis, the Shedukpens, the Akas, the Khoas, and also some other tribes, minor tribes like the Lishpa, Chukpa, and the Butpa, also inhabiting the region. We find that these two districts of Tawang and West Kameng are bounded by Tibet, which is now under Chinese aggression on the north. Bhutan is on the west, Sonitpur district of Assam on the south, and East Kameng district of Arunachal Pradesh on the east. The Bumla Pass separates Tawang from Tibet, and Ningsangla Pass in Mukto village separates the Tawang district from Bhutan. The primary focus of this paper is to understand the socio-economic and cultural connections of the Mompa people of Arunachal Pradesh. They have with its South Asian counterparts, that is with Tibet and Bhutan, since the early times down to the medieval and modern period when the British ruled over India. This paper shall also look into the continuity of this interaction in present times so as to understand the underlying forces that has helped in the cultural exchange and assimilations, if any. For the purpose, the study has been divided into certain heads like origin and migration, religion, trade relations, and social aspects like housing, food, and ornaments, among others, for a better understanding of the history and historical relations that took place for the period under study. Regarding origin and migration, there has been a continuous oral tradition which is prevalent among the Mompas, which relates their origin and migration from Tibet and Bhutan to their present habitat in Arunachal Pradesh. Certain myths and legends are associated with it, which suggests that they might have migrated in batches in different periods of time from Tibet as well as eastern Bhutan. The very term Mompa is actually derived from the Tibetan language, Mon, which means low or downlands, and Pa means people. Hence, it means that the Mompas were people residing in the low-lying south of areas south of Tibet. According to Barrier Elwin, the Tawang Valley was first inhabited by the immigrants from the plains under Prince Rupati, sometime immediately after the beginning of the Christian era. So he may have been a ruler from Assam, but due to dearth of materials, who this ruler Rupati was, it is not certain. According to another version, it is believed that the Kalaktang Mompas came down from Tibet following two routes. One group came down via Tawang and another group via Bhutan. The first group had settled in the eastern part of Bhutan to stay away from the troubles which they faced frequently from the monastery officials as well as the Tibetan agents in Tibet. With the second group, some Bhutia families also migrated from Bhutan and settled with them in the Kalaktang region. The villagers of Golangchan, Shampong, and Brakpalangchan claimed that their ancestors had migrated from eastern Bhutan and intermixed with the Mompas of Kalaktang. However, when the actual migration took place is hard to make out, but this must have been prior to the advent of Buddhism in the region, that is, prior to 8th century CE. The Tibetan connection is unmistakable as the Mompas were earlier put under Tibetan authority, and for administrative convenience, the whole Mompa region was divided into 3 divisions, each under 3 officers called Jong, which were run by the Jongpons. It is pertinent to mention here that even in Tibet and Bhutan, an administrative office is known as Jong and its officers as Jongpons. We find that the 3 Jongs established by the Tibetan authority in Mompa region where the Gyangar Jong, which is in Tawang, the Darrang Jong and Talung Jong, which is in Kalaktang, and they were placed under the jurisdiction of the Chona Zongpon by the Lhasa government in Tibet. The Sona Jong is almost 51.9 kilometers from Tawang, and it was a place of considerable importance from trade. Hence, it was put directly under the supervision of the Lhasa Jong, which is the which was the capital city of Tibet. Although the main duty of the Jongpon was to collect tax, but they also had judicial responsibilities, and the taxes that they collected from the Mompa people were in the form of grains, medicinal plants, herbs, firewood, and timber, which they collected from each household. We find that the Mompas were forced to submit to these obnoxious taxes, and we find even some fled to Bhutan to free themselves of this Tibetan control. In 1826, by the Treaty of Yandabu, the British administrative control took place over Assam and the Northeast Frontier Tract. It was in 1913 that Captain Bailey, he was the first British officer to visit Tawang, and he had written in his report that the dialect of the Mompas has a greater resemblance to that of the Bhutanese language. But this resemblance with the Bhutanese language is found amongst the Mompas of West Kameng and Bhutan, and not with the dialect which is spoken by the Mompas of Tawang. Thus, it becomes clear that due to the continuous flow of people into Tawang and West Kameng areas, both from Tibet and Bhutan, which is reflected in the language spoken by the Mompas, by the similar conference held in 1914, a boundary line was drawn between India and Tibet, which is known as the McMahon line, and it placed the present areas of Tawang within India with British control and the repeated endeavor to stop the collection of illegal tributes to Tibet by the Tibetan Jongpons. The Mompa people could free themselves from the Tibetan yoke. After India gained independence from the British, the areas of present-day Arunachal Pradesh have become part and parcel of Indian dominion, and whatever the last vestiges of Tibetan control was there over the Mompa people, it has been blocked forever. Regarding religion, we find that the Mompas follow Mahayana Buddhism as their form of worship. The entry of Buddhism in the Mompa territory is said to have commenced from Tibet during the 8th century CE. It was during the reign of Song San Gampo, the 32nd king of Tibet, when Buddhism entered into Tibet. However, it was during the reign of Trison Detson, the 36th king of Tibet, during whose reign Buddhism made much headway. It was Guru Padma Sambhava, who was a member of the Tantric Yogacharya school from India, who actually helped in the propagation of Buddhism in Tibet. Accordingly, Guru Padma Sambhava arrived in Tibet and established the Tantric form of Mahayana Buddhism, which was then popular in India. After establishing Buddhism in Tibet, Guru Padma Sambhava marched towards south and reached the land inhabited by the Mompa and sowed the seed of Buddhism among them. Guru Padma Sambhava is popularly known as Lopon Rinpoche, the precious Guru, or Lopon Pema Jungne, the lotus-born Guru by the Tibetans, as well as among the Mompas of Arunachal Pradesh. Even in Bhutan, Buddhism is found to be the predominant religion followed by the people, which have its roots in Tibet. It was again none other than Guru Padma Sambhava who had laid the foundation of Buddhism in the 8th century CE in Bhutan, and it has ushered in one of the most important and unifying forces that had sustained the Bhutanese people and contributed to the evolution of the unique culture and religious tradition. Thus, we find that the image and portraits of Guru Padma Sambhava are placed in almost all the Buddhist temples of Tibet, Bhutan, and also in the Mompa region. Prior to the spread of Buddhism in Tibet and the adjoining areas, the people were followers of Bon religion. Bon religion was popular in Bhutan, Tibet, and also amongst the Mompas of Arunachal Pradesh. Helmut Hoffman in his book states that the Bon religion was widespread in Inner Asia, China, East and West Turkestan, Manchuria, Mongolia, and the Tibetan Plateau. Bon is an ancient Tibetan term and is identical in meaning with the Tibetan word zla, means to recite mantras or magic formulas. Bonism also included sacrifices and worshipping nature. We find that with the advent of Buddhism, Bon religion got merged with the Buddhist beliefs and practices. And even today, we find that in the Mompa society, the Mompas, they believe in supernatural powers like various good and evil spirits and gods guarding their immediate surroundings, namely Zan and Gyat, who are the mountain god Sada, the earthly supernatural being, Yul Dida, divinity of region, Lu, serpent deities that are the guardian of treasure, Dut, who are the demons. Even the installation of player flags in the fields installed by the Mompas is now a part of a Buddhist tradition, which was earlier actually the remnants of the Bon religion. Earlier, to please the spirits, the Mompa people took the assistance of the Bonpa, who are the priests associated with the Bon religion. Now, there are only a handful of Bon priests, and people take the help of the Buddhist monk for carrying out pujas to appease the spirits of the land and water. Even the housing pattern of the Mompas had striking similarity to that found in Tibet and Bhutan. Living in the mountainous region, having a cold climate and scarcity of building materials, houses were mostly constructed of stone slabs. The most common traditional houses among the Mompas are stone houses known as Kharfei or Chikpakham, which are of double story with 4 to 5 rooms and a thin wooden roof. We find even in southern Tibet and parts of southern and central and eastern Bhutan, the traditional houses are made of stone slab plastered with earth or clay. Like the traditional Mompa houses in Tibet and Bhutan too, one can find double to 3-story stone houses where the ground floor of the house are used as barn for animals. The upper floors are living quarters having a kitchen, bedroom, a storeroom, and also a prayer room. So, however, these types of traditional houses are very rare now, as people are now opting for modern means of houses. Nevertheless, the stone houses are quite distinct, as they suggest the similarity of the housing pattern and suggest a cultural interaction between the Mompas with its South Asian neighbors. We also find that the ornaments which are worn by the Mompas are almost similar to those worn by the Tibetans and the Bhutanese women. The ornaments are mostly made of silver, which is precious or semi-precious stones using corals, turquoise, G beads, which are very, very so-called precious because it has got religious symbolism ingrained with it, and also emerald, jade, etc. And this ornaments, it invoked the status and prosperity for the woman who adorned it. Earlier, the ornaments worn by the Mompas mostly came from Tibet and the Bhutanese traders who involved in trade with the Mompas. Of the ornaments, the necklace, which is known as kekor, it formed the most valuable ornaments, and it is made by using silver intersected with the beads, the corals, and the Z beads, and it is very valuable. Besides, we find that the women also adorn themselves with finger ring using different types of silver, bangles charmed with red and green stones. Due to the dearth of silver and precious stones in the region where the Mompas resided, the Mompas basically had to trade for these ornaments from the skilled craftsmen of Tibet and Bhutan. The cultural linkage of the Mompas with its South Asian neighbors is also evident in the cuisine that shares common bond with the Tibetans and the Bhutanese people. The staple food of the Mompas comprises of rice and finger millet. Other food includes maize, barley, wheat, etc. Besides, they also consume varieties of leafy vegetables, mushrooms, several wild vegetables, and edible fruits. They also generally prefer dried and roasted meat. Locally made ghee and churpi cheese also form an integral part of the Mompa diet. We find that the Tibetan staple food is a sampa, which is also made of roasted barley flour, often consumed with Tibetan butter tea. The Bhutanese people have rice accompanied by side dishes consisting of meat or vegetables. Emadatsi is the national food of Bhutan, which is spicy mix of chilies and local cheese called datsi. It is consumed by adding green beans, ferns, potatoes, mushroom, etc. We find the Mompas also prepare a dish with chopped vegetables boiled with water, salt, soybean, churpi, and chilies. When the vegetables are half cooked, milk churpi is added to enhance the flavor and taste of the dish. It is eaten with rice. For the chutney, a bunch of chilies is crushed, and then to eat is added both soybean and milk churpi for the flavor. Other common cuisine includes momo and thukpa noodles, which invariably came from Tibet and is popular even in Bhutan. Most common form of drink in the Mompa society is salted butter tea, which is prepared by boiling tea leaves in water. Then in a cane cylinder, milk, salt, and a dab of ghee is added and churned thoroughly, which is then ready to be consumed. This evidently has all likelihood to the pocha or butter tea of Tibet, which is made from churning tea, salt, and yak butter, which is also a popular drink among the Bhutanese people. The connection of the Mompas with Tibet and Bhutan is almost more evident from its trade relations. From the remote past, the Mompas had ushered in a vigorous trade relations with Tibet, Bhutan, and also Assam. Usually carried out through barter in the 1950s and prior to it, the main articles of trade among the Mompas include handmade baskets, bamboo mats, wooden bowls, incense sticks, earthen pots, handmade paper, milk products, animal skins, fresh and dried fruits, raw materials for weaving, both cotton and wool, woolen clothes, vegetables, dyes, and crops. These articles were exported to Tibet, Bhutan, and Assam, and the items of import included ivory, bronze, utensils, dried meat, salt, horses, mules, ponies, woolen carpets, tobacco, cotton, and silk yarn. This trading pattern of the Mompas remained unchanged till they came under the Indian administration. The Mompas also settled as middlemen in trade relationship between traders of Assam and Tibet. The west-coming Mompas visited Bhutan via Kalaktang, Chingi, Chamdurung, Champela, whereas the people of Tawang followed two routes, one via Mukto Pass and the other via Bleating Village. They visited Bhutan in the month of October to December. They bartered local ghee, churpi, indigenous tobacco leaf, traditional handmade bags, deer skin, airy silk cloth, etc., against woolen dress, caps made of yak fur, fine cotton, and a special quality of rice called ash. The Bhutanis also visited Tawang during Torgya festivals for trade. They carried fruits like orange, apricot, dry fish, paddy, etc. This continues till today as they are seen carrying their wares along with other machine-made clothes in the Mompa region. Trade intercourse between the Mompas and the Tibetans continued uninterrupted till the Chinese aggression of Tibet in 1959. The trade route to Tibet was via Jangda Pass, Lao Pass, Pangchin, Thingbu, and Magbo areas of Tawang district. The Mompas frequented the markets of Sona, which lies in southern Tibet. They visited Sona for trade during the grand fairs known as Gapa Songdui, which was held in the month of June-July, Dumpa Songdui held in the month of August-September, and Chukchipa Songdui held in December-January. The importance of Sona as an important trading center is also illustrated beautifully by John Mitchell in his report, where he described it to be a great exchange mart where salt, wool, and borax from the whole country, that is Mongolia, and tea, fine silks, woolen clothes, leather boots, and ponies for Lasha were exchanged for rice, spices, dyes, fruits, and coarse clothes from Assam. Tibetan wool and salt from Tibet were also particularly in demand in the Mompa region. The trade relation between Tibet and India via Tawang continued throughout the British period and at the annual fairs held at Udalguri and Deimara in Assam. However, this vital link of communication had stopped with the Chinese aggression of Tibet. From the above discussion, it becomes clear that the Mompas had a historic connection. Hello?
Time.
Okay.
Had a the presentation?
Yeah. I'm just concluding. Okay. From the above discussion, it becomes clear that the Mompas had a historic connection with Tibet and Bhutan. Religion was one unifying factor which brought these communities together and fostered the growth of trade and cultural exchange. Even now, Bhutanese traders throng the region inhabited by the Mompas. Unfortunately, the Chinese aggression on Tibet has marked an end to the once vibrant trade that existed between the Tibetans and the Mompas and also with the northeast India. Even the pilgrimage which was made by the Mompas to Potala Palace in Tibet and the Tibetans who thronged the Tawang monastery, this has also stopped due to the Chinese aggression. This territorial and political issue, if can be resolved, can go a long way in cementing the ties between Tibet and India and resumption of trade activities, which is sure to benefit both the countries as well as the Mompa people in particular. The existing relationship with Bhutan can be further strengthened by opening up the border for regular trade intercourse. Religious tourism is another field which promises a huge potential for trade and cultural exchange. This is undoubtedly the way forward and which is sure to bring about peace and prosperity for both the nations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sweta. Very interesting because I was listening to your presentation and I was thinking I'm in Ladakh because there is definitely a connection between, Mahayana Buddhism. Now, of course, we have Tantric Buddhism in Ladakh, but Buddhism in Ladakh also came in around the 8th century, though it is said that it came in before it arrived in Tibet. But we have several references and statues which show that early Mahayana stone carvings. So I think another research can be done if you connect. Somebody if he wants to do a research, connecting Buddhism in Northeast and how it also similar kind of thing you find in Ladakh. Also, you were talking about the salty tea. We have the similar kind of things you were talking in your presentation in Ladakh. It would be very interesting if you could include, if you could search for connections with Ladakh region of Jammu and Kashmir also. It would be very interesting. Yeah, thank you. So before we move on to the next presentation, there is a request from Professor Das that she will take 2-3 minutes to just to show her slides. If that's okay with the Heritage Society, can she show her slides for 5 minutes? Dr. Das, you have 5 minutes to show your
Yes.
slides, please.
Okay. Okay. Is it showing now?
Yes, ma'am. You can open now PowerPoint. It is visible.
It is visible, no?
Yes, ma'am. You can open the PowerPoint now.
Yeah. Now you can see, no?
Yes, yes, ma'am. You can change it
Okay.
slides. Yes.
Okay. I'll just take 2-3 minutes. So this is like Vidyadhara from the Gupta period, because I wanted to show like this is from the Ganga Valley. Then this bottom one, you can see the arrow. This is from UP, and this is from the Badami cave. So this is from other parts of India, this slide. And this is from Assam. Like I was saying, the Vidyadhara with the lotus petals. These lotus petals are here, that is formed. And he has a beatific smile, and he's wearing a mukut, and his ornamentations like 2 kanthaharas, etc. And he's holding a garland. And the Agni Puran also says the Vidyadharas are supposed to be like in the sky with garlands. And this is part of a stela which was in the museum. And original reference, I found that they were just the other part was also there, but here only one is there. You can just see part of the with the ornamented Vidyadhara. And this is from Cotton College or Cotton University campus. This is more elaborate. So although it is broken, it is very lovely. And these lotus petals here and here, this is also found in other sculptures from Guwahati and also from Garo Hills, Bhaitbari. So here you can see his earrings and other things like kharga, etc. and the lotus. And this is in the campus of the Assam State Museum. These Vidyadharas, they are holding what you call lotus buds. Then this is another one with the Vidyadhara with the lotus bud, that is broken image. This is also in the campus of the Assam State Museum. So these were also probably like in the Adhistan of a temple originally, but only this part has been recovered. And these are others which are found in the museum. So here they don't have mustaches, but here they have mustaches. And they are wearing long malas, etc. And this is from, this sculpture is from Deopahar. This is in Numaligarh in Golaghat district. So this is also a Vidyadhara you find. And they're holding a kharga, and this is his upturned feet, and you find the lotus here. And this is, I downloaded from the net. Here you can find this, just like in Angkor Wat, we find the elephant terraces. Here also, you find rows of Kirtimukha with Rudraksha or pearl beads. And these are very beautiful looking. And the features here are very similar to the Apsaras which you find in Angkor, etc. And this is a close-up. This is another photo of this Deopahar only. So you can see this upturned lotuses here, and they're also holding lotus buds here. And these are the Kirtimukhas. Roughly carved, but this here the nose is also slightly broken, but you can see them with the lotus buds. And these are from the Pala sculptures, not from Assam, but from Bangladesh. So here you find in this Vishnu and this Mrityunjay Shiva sculpture from Bangladesh, etc. So you find the Kirtimukh here, and the Vidyadharas. Now in the post-Pala period in Assam, this is from Ambari, you find this same thing. So now they are just a sculptural motif and not a proper sculpture as such. So they are just in the stela here. So these are from Ambari. And the Kirtimukha, it has just become a grinning face and sort of a stylized element. It's no longer the frightening looking Kirtimukha. It's almost comical. And these you find the Vidyadharas here. And here also. This is Surya sculpture. These are all from Ambari. So this is, you find this. And as you can see, it almost looks very funny. Here there is little bit vestige of the Kirtimukha with the broad flaring nostrils, etc. And here these are the Vidyadharas, but like they have now been reduced to a sculptural motif. And this is a Chandanayaka sculpture from Ambari. So here also you find the Vidyadhara, although there's hardly any space. So it's just like sort of a conventional. So these are just what I wanted to show. So I said I won't take much time. So this is it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Das. Now we have our next speaker, Dr. Tilok Thakurai. He is head of the Department of History and Archaeology, Northeastern Hill University, Tura campus, Meghalaya. He would be speaking on colonial archaeology and archaeology of Northeast Asia. Dr. Tilok, please.
Thank you, Chairperson, Madam. Thank you very much. And good evening to all. First of all, my best wishes to Director of Archaeology, Dr. Deeprekha Kohli, and organizer of this seminar, Heritage Society, for organizing such a wonderful online seminar. Basically, I am an archaeologist. My interest area of research is prehistoric archaeology and megalithic archaeology of Northeast India. But as I am an archaeologist, my also interest is to know how the archaeological research started in Northeast India, mainly from during the colonial period. So I have done some in detail kind of investigation on the colonial archaeology in Assam. I have given for publication somewhere else, but here I prepared a presentation. Considering the shortage of time, I will not go in detail, but very briefly in two parts. First is about what is colonial archaeology and how we can see this in Northeast India scenario. So I'm going to share my presentation. Okay. Okay. I believe my presentation is full screen now. So my topic of presentation is colonial archaeology and archaeology of Northeast India, but I will go very brief. I will not go in very detail into it. So first of all, if we see colonial archaeology, recently as very much there are debate about colonial archaeology. But if you see the B.M. Fagan, who wrote 200 Years of African Archaeology, he defended colonial archaeology by saying that colonialism and he denounced the criticism of colonial archaeology. In fact, he says that archaeology and anthropological research grew up during under the colonial powers. Fagan's reply was in response to the critiques of colonial archaeology. According to the critiques of colonial archaeology, colonial archaeologists interpreted colonial culture as static and projected cultures of colonized areas as inferior, or promoted the disassociation of the past from the present to justify the cultural inferior of the present, and thus smoothed the path for the cultural superior to legitimize the cultural inferior. The colonial archaeologists showed the cultures of colonial areas in a pejorative fashion, has commonly treated them as uncivilized, semi-civilized, unchanging people with an unchanging technology, etc., etc. At times, propaganda was abusive too, and sometimes it is very opportunistic also to make appropriation about some culture. For the best example is Wheeler's interpretation of Aryan invasion for the decline of Harappan civilization. Then if one considered the past of the colonial archaeologists, most of them were administrative officers, talented, who usually take an all-absorbed vacation and rarely trained archaeologists. They are an adventurer who travels to exotic places to look for traces of the material culture of the past. Women do not generally play a significant role in this quest. Often a loyal indigenous guide comes to his aid, and eventually the archaeologist becomes acquainted with other local people as well. Despite this contract, the life stories of the colonial archaeologists generally confined to the colonial gaze on the prehistoric past of colonial societies as lost worlds waiting to be discovered by the Westerners. And thus, the social outsider to public hero, the colonial archaeologists they become, and thanks to the discoveries made by them. The discovery made by colonial archaeologists fascinated diverse audience. The collecting of stone tools became a booming activity practiced by the professional and amateur alike. No, and then there was a task of establishing archaeology as a discipline. In around they have started organizing international congress, seminar, and publications where they used to publish their new discoveries and all over the world. And then discoveries about the past and prehistory were illustrated in journals scientifically and systematically of that time. The knowledge acquired, constructed about the past was considered as scientific. But the fact is that the new knowledge gathered about the past under colonialism promoted linear advancement, and thus we see interpretations on connection with and migrations with different parts. The idea indeed helped to legitimize the past culture of colonial areas as a result of connections, migration, thus disassociate from the present inferior culture of colonized areas. Indeed, colonial archaeology till the 20th century has been an eloquent example of colonial discourse. Now, what is colonial discourse? I don't want to go in detail about this theoretical part of colonial discourse and all, but the last line, which is it is that it is like it is like ruling power who construct the knowledge as the truth about us. It's more like power of knowledge to the knowledge of power. It is what briefly we can understand about the colonial discourse. Now, there are many points. Many of the critique of colonial archaeologists they have pointed out that how they have used the culture of art, antiquity, and artifact of colonized areas, and they have taken away, and how they have justified of taking away of artifact from the colonized areas. So I don't want to read out all this thing in detail, but directly I would like to go out to the Northeast India. Now, I know in Northeast India, if you see that the colonial power in Northeast India came in 1826. Before that, the British rule was not there. After the Yandambu Treaty in 1826, the colonial power came directly. So if you say that the Northeast India came under British rule very easily, there is not much conflict about it. So that is why easy control of power could be a reason that we did not find Assam in any of the archaeological expedition organized by the colonial institution or scholars. Most of the early discoveries in the region were either by army officers or administrators without having training or much scientific knowledge about the discipline. This was also a reason that most of the early discoveries of the prehistoric tools only confined to the description of tool and native superstitious belief about it. And most of the discoveries, as historians of archaeology put as discovery, was the collection from the natives or purchased from natives or gifted by the natives or collected by force. So now, if you see the early notice of archaeological remains in Northeast India, it was in fact in 1835 by West Macott. He has reported. But before, if you see, if you want to go before colonial time, if any outsider came and reported some archaeological remains or not, but they are not much, but there are some ethnographers who before British Raj, they just got some passing remark about Northeast India, like Babington, Pemberton, Wilcox. They just have mentioned, but there is not much. There nothing about archaeological, but ethnographic mentions has been made. But in real sense, if you see this archaeological discuss or archaeological discovery, it was in 1835 when West Macott has reported temple remains from Saridua. It's a very lengthy article published in Journal of Royal Asiatic Society, where he has discussed about his discovery of this remains, followed by Hanny in 1848, 2 articles, one about by Kasai Kaiti temple in Sodia, and then about the excavation of a moidam in Soraido. This was probably one of the early kind of research on the Ahom archaeology. Then Delton, he has again a lengthy article he has published on the temple remains from Guwahati. Godwin Austen about Kasari remains in Dimapur, and then Foster about again Ahom temples from Sibsagar. These are the very these articles, these papers on the architectures has many things to know about us, mainly from the Brahmaputra plain of Assam. Here, Delton, in his paper, he laments that Northeast India was not explored. It was considered that the land without culture. There is no history. But when he wrote the paper about documented temple remains, he said that it has a deep history. But the only thing is that nobody has given proper interest to explore this area. And again, he says that now the jail hospital, now Panbazar area, where all jail is there. He said that many of the temple remains has been destroyed to build a jail by the British ruler itself in that time. So he said that time only he insisted that proper excavation, proper kind of documentation should be done in the old jail compound, but nothing has been done. This was he demanded 1865. And by that time, already under the British rule, when the construction was going on of jail construction was going on, so many temples has been destroyed. And this is the site plan given by Westmacott about the Saridwar. He see very rough, but he has plotted. This is maybe one of the earliest map of archaeological remains of Northeast India, perhaps, as far I know, about Saridwar. But this map has been again contested by Delton when he visited in later on in 1857. But anyway, this is the one of the earliest archaeological map from the Northeast India where he has Westmacott has plotted the temple remains from Saridwar. But it is interesting for the present scholars to go back with this map to find maybe more or kind of architectural remain or sculptures remain, because he has mentioned so many sculptures remain scattered here and there in Saridwar area. And these photographs from Delton, he has narrated around 10 to 15 temples from Guwahati area, and he has made proper sketches about all temple remains from this area. And these photographs are very important now for the present scholars to revisit these temples and see about the preservation condition or present condition of this temple remain. Now, if you see what kind of contribution they have made for development of archaeological research, mainly art and architecture research in Northeast India. Now, the three categories of architectural remain came up. First category, temple remains of early period of Kamrup. Then second category of the Ahom period, which is medieval period, and then third categories of the ruins, forts, and temples of the tribal kings, like those of Kosaris king in Dimapur. But again, there's an interesting point is that we can see here the idea of insertion of influence on the art and architecture of Northeast India. If I give you the example, Godwin Austen, when he was documenting the Kosari remains of Dimapur, he has mentioned when he saw the brick gateway of the Kasari kings remain in Dimapur, he said that he praised the architect for beautifully designing the arch, but he expressed that the arts reflect Islamic influence. However, the nature of Islamic influence remained unexplained by him. Second example of idea of influence is from the Joysagar temple given by Foster. Foster, he says that the idea of Foster's idea of hand over European architect, or who was very much familiar with European decorative art on a temple in Joysagar. However, this claim of European influence is nothing but an imagination of influence based on certain visual similarities. So there are some certain visual similarities are there, and visual similarities not always necessary that it is influence. So his claim of having European architect influence on the Joysagar temple look like very kind of influence during the colonial time, mainly colonial historian or colonial archaeologist. This kind of romantic idea they put on their topic of research. This is the Dimapur Gate, where this Godwin Austen said that this is Islamic kind of influence on this gateway. Now, after that, second category of archaeology is the prehistoric archaeology of Northeast India. This is also very interesting. Archaeology of Northeast India came to scholarly knowledge in 1867, which is just 4 years after the discovery of prehistoric tool in South India by Foot in 1864. So that means the history of prehistoric archaeology is as early as the mainland India, but unfortunately it remained unnoticed after 1867. But now here sometimes it is misquoted in some of the review paper on archaeology of Northeast India that John Lubbock, who has reported prehistoric tool from Northeast India. Actually, it is not John Lubbock. It is Still, Captain Still, who has accidentally saw one jadeite tool in one of the tea gardener's house, and he has wrote a letter to his friend Pharaoh in England, and the friend Pharaoh in England, he has given the letter to Lubbock. Lubbock was one of the renowned prehistorian of that time. Actually, he was a father of European prehistorian. He reported this letter. He has not reported. He has published extract of this letter in the Athenaeum, and that is how the prehistory of Northeast India came to the light. This is the extract John Lubbock has published in Athenaeum. Now, after this Captain Still discovery, subsequently collection and reports made by Still, Barron, Austin, Medlicott, Brown, Hutton, Mills, and Hutton, Walker, they have collected material from many of the places from hills and plain area. But they have failed to provide its context. Context is very important in prehistoric studies. Why? Because mostly they have not collected this tool by systematic fieldwork. This has been given as a gift, or they have collected from the household when they have visited particular villages. There are hardly any attempt for serious archaeological exploration expedition to find them in context or define their context. Interestingly, their effort of reporting and publicizing this they publicized this in reputed journals, mainly Asiatic Society of Bengal and in the England, and then this could motivate after publishing the journals in reputed journals. Also, this could not motivate colonial government to initiate a systematic archaeological expedition in the region, either under an individual or organization like Archaeological Survey of India that was operational in mainland India since 1861. It seems the government, the colonial government of Assam, they were not interested to take up archaeological research in Northeast India. Where in mainland India, Archaeological Survey of India was established in 1861, and Alexander Cunningham, he has taken up a exploration covering mainly South Asia, but Northeast India was excluded. He reached till Dhaka, but his exploration could not. Assam was not a part of his exploration. This may be due to the effortless control of the power that needed no help for knowledge of power. Thus, archaeological findings merely become an object for a museum and collections. Whatever they have collected from Northeast India, that is how it's become just a museum object of display. There are, without providing the biography of that artifact or history of that artifact, there are one or two exceptional efforts that tried to provide insight into the prehistory and archaeology of Assam. First by Hutton in 1928, where we see some kind of interpretation to the archaeological material of Assam. The Prehistory of Assam by Hutton in 1928 for the first time tried to classify the prehistoric tool based on their morphology, and then he tried to correlate those with the other regions to bring connection or influence. He narrated the possibility of Southeast Asian and even South Indian prehistoric influence on the prehistoric tool of Assam. Indeed, he was the first one to promote the theory of influence connection mainly from the East on the prehistory of Assam. The idea continues as colonial legacies till now. Mills Assam as a field of research in 1933 has much reputation in the he has given some suggestion to the historians of Northeast India in his inaugural lectures of Kamrup Anusandhan Samiti. But interestingly, by the time he was one of the established historians and government official of Northeast India, he has given advice that archaeological excavation and works need to be done. But he was being a government official and historians of his own repute of Northeast India has never taken up any kind of systematic archaeological work in this region. Then third category is megalithic monuments. Megalithic monuments, including living megalithism, were reported and documented, focusing mainly ethnographic of the communities. It was reported from 1872, and they have only documented the living megalithism, and some passing remarks on the standing monoliths, whenever they have came across. And then it is also interesting to see how the local researchers in the native scholars, they are responding to the historical research of Northeast India during the colonial time. It's very interesting that as early as 1912, some of the native historians, they have established this Kamrup Anusandhan Samiti. And Samiti was very active in promoting historical research, archaeological research, collecting archaeological material, and even establishing a museum. They have written several times to colonial government for the fund to establish the museum, but colonial government, they have rejected their proposal several times. And finally, they have established a museum by raising their own fund. Later on, now this present Guwahati Museum, which is taken over by Assam government after the independence from the Kamrup Anusandhan Samiti. And then this Kamrup Anusandhan Samiti was also requested for excavation in Guwahati as early as in 1916 to Archaeological Survey of India through the government. But again, as Archaeological Survey of India, they have somehow rejected the proposal by saying that it will be useless invest of money to have excavation in proposed area by Kamrup Anusandhan Samiti. That is how the excavation was not being conducted in Guwahati. It would have been conducted by that time. Maybe we would have known many kind of archaeological information about the early history of Kamrup. Anyway, the effort of Kamrup Anusandhan Samiti, that is why, as a response to the colonial archaeologists, it was very important. Now then colonial government, they have established Department of Historical and Antiquarian Studies. The Kamrup Anusandhan Samiti was founded by a group of Assamese intellectuals, whereas Department of Historical and Antiquarian Studies was established in 1928 by the colonial Assam government. It focused more on collecting historical documents and make arrangements for their publications. The department put more emphasis in recovering manuscript and inscription to record and publish them as a historical record than on archaeological ruins of the region. Moreover, as it was government-sponsored department, works were mainly undertaken by the provincial directors. The department also came up with a bulletin since 1932 and mainly covered the reports of provincial directors and activities conducted by the department on collection of manuscript and other material related to history. Whereas Kamrup Anusandhan Samiti, they came up with a journal where they have given platform to the local historians, local intellectuals to publish their findings about history and archaeology of Northeast. That is very important because native historian and native archaeologists, it was for tough time for them to publish in a reputed journal of that time, like Asiatic Society of Bengal or maybe Royal Asiatic Society of Ireland, as the colonial historians and colonial archaeologists were doing. So now, works of Archaeological Survey of India came very late to Northeast India, and these works were mainly on conservation, preservation. There is no systematic excavation and exploration was done yet. Even till now, we see very less amount of systematic exploration and excavation taken up by Archaeological Survey of India. Now, if you see nationalism and archaeology.
Dr. Tilok, I would request
Yes.
you to conclude.
Okay, fine. I'll go to the conclusion section directly. Though archaeological interest in India, I will finish. There were 5 minutes. I will finish the conclusion. Though archaeological
Yes, please.
India as early as in the 15th in the 15th century, Northeast India has to wait till the middle of the 18th century. Such a late beginning of archaeological interest in Northeast India was due to the fact that it did not a part of colonial rule in 1826. The annexation of the then Assam in 1826 by the British colony was the turning point in the political scenario of Assam, and this indeed made the path for the colonial evangelists and ethnographers to enter the region for their interest. Most of the early discoveries made by the colonial officers were accidental on their personal interest, and many a time as a result of information provided by the locals. Interestingly, when archaeological discoveries became a regular activity and planned survey was undertaken by the Alexander Cunningham, Northeast India was ignored. It was probably for the fact, as I mentioned by Delton, that it was considered that Assam is devoid of any classical remains and survival of archaeological remains in the hostile climate of Assam is difficult. It was perhaps such kind of idea that kept Assam out of map of archaeology for a long time. The officers, mainly artillery officers deputed in Assam, took the initiative to explore and report archaeological remains on their interest. They could collect information during their travel to the different parts of Assam and made a point to visit to verify information obtained from the locals. The early reports may not have historical or archaeological narration in it, but significant to bring out the ruins of the archaeological remains to the academic circle. These early colonial reports hardly show any symptom of imperialist ideology in projecting the past of Northeast India. The establishment of Kamrup Anusandhan Summit in 1912 was the turning point in the archaeological studies of Northeast India. It was an extraordinary effort by the Assamese intellectuals to establish the committee, and many local intellectuals came up to engage themselves in the research of history and archaeology in Northeast India. The local intellectual like B.K.L. Borua emphasized the use of archaeology to write the history of the region, and further emphasized that the history of the region can be pushed back to the early period. Efforts were also made to establish historical links of Assam with that of India by the Assamese intellectual through the narration of archaeological remains. Many discoveries on temple ruins, sculpture, coins were made by this time. So now, this is my last slide. Since the establishment of Archaeological Survey of India, Northeast India was always neglected in their agenda of exploration excavation. Only after the establishment of the Eastern Circle in 1889 at Calcutta, they showed interest only in preservation and conservation work of the region's historical and archaeological remains. Archaeology as an academic discipline in Assam grew only after the establishment of Guwahati University in 1948. The Department of Anthropology under the leadership of M.C. Goswami took initiative to methodologically and systematically explore the archaeology of the region. The contribution of the department is immense in adding several facts to the archaeology of the region. First, it brought a methodological and empirical approach to the archaeological studies. Second, they conducted first ever systematic archaeological excavation in 1961 at Dowsali Hading. Third, provided a stratigraphic context to Neolithic cultures, which was colonial officers were not able to provide. Fourth, established cultural links of prehistoric Northeast India with East and Southeast Asia. Fifthly, knowledge of the archaeology of Northeast India enriched with their systematic exploration and trial excavation. And thank you very much with that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tilok.
Thank you.
It's been a very, very wonderful session. Now I would request question and answers if somebody wants to pose some questions to the speakers. Any questions which somebody would like to ask? The house is open for discussion now. So no questions? Should we conclude the session then? Okay. Since we have no questions coming in, so we can conclude the session. first I would like to thank the Heritage Society for inviting me to chair this amazing session, especially on the occasion of the World Heritage Week. I mean, Northeast, staying in the northern part of India, I mean, we hardly get to know what is happening in the Northeast and especially the culture of Northeast. And after listening to such amazing presentations, starting from the Bhakti, starting from Dr. Neeru Mishra's presentation on Bhaktism, and then moving on to on Bhakti traditions, and then moving on to the we have touched all the aspects of heritage. We have touched the intangible aspects, we have touched the tangible aspects, especially with the archaeology of Northeast India. We have got an overview of the whole of archaeological status of Northeast India, and we know now what intangible heritage the Northeast India has. We have talked about festivals, we have talked about Buddhism, we have talked about, I mean, everything, all the aspects of heritage have been covered. And I am really thankful for, inviting me for this session, because it has really opened my eyes and my knowledge has increased many folds. As I was listening to the presentations, I could relate how the comparative study between Kashmir and Northeast could be taken up by the scholars. If nobody comes forward, I think I can also request my scholars, especially the Ladakhi scholars, to at least work on Buddhism and see how the tradition, the Buddhism has entered Northeast India through Tibet, and simultaneously how it entered in Jammu and Kashmir also, more specifically in Ladakh, how it entered. And Ladakh is a place where Buddhism is still practiced. Maybe not Mahayana Buddhism, but definitely Tantric Buddhism is practiced there. So it would be very interesting to, after this webinar, to, after this international conference, to have some scholars working on the links between Northeast and the northern part of India. And tomorrow also, I think we have some very, very interesting sessions on intangible culture heritage, which I'm looking forward to. So thank you very much for this amazing and a wonderful session. The presenters were really great. I'm really thankful to all the presenters for presenting such wonderfully on every aspect of heritage of Northeast. Thank you very
ma'am.
much.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, ma'am. At the end of this session, let me present my vote of thanks present here. First of all, my sincere thanks to our chairperson, Professor Poonam Chaudhary, ma'am, for chairing this session. Thank you, ma'am. I also thank all the speakers for the very wonderful presentations today. Tomorrow also we have a couple of more academic sessions. We have academic session 3 at that will begin at 11 a.m. and then we will have academic session 4 followed by valedictory talk, and a cultural session will be hosted in the night where Dr. Mallika Kandali and her group will perform Satriya dance. So I request all our viewers, our delegates and everyone to be live with Heritage Society tomorrow again at 11 o'clock. I also thank all our viewers, our presenters, our chairperson, and everyone involved in making this international conference successful. With this ends the day 1 of the session. Tomorrow we will again be live with academic session 3 at 11 o'clock. Thank you, everyone.